Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom we have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessings descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interest you've committed to their charge. Amen. Item 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honourable members, I welcome you to this afternoon sitting, and I just want to appeal to you to work expeditiously so that we can complete the matters which are on the order paper today. We shall soon be going for the Christmas recess, so we want to try and finish as much as possible before we take a break. Thank you. Item 3.
Item 3, statements by ministers.
Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I make my statement, I would like to apologize for my absence yesterday, but I didn't mean to vex the House, but I told your people that I would not be available, and it seems there was lack of communication. They did not put it to you. So I'm sorry, I was not here yesterday. Madam Speaker, honorable members, according to Article 182 of the Constitution, 181 of the Constitution, the 5-year term of the local council was supposed to expire before the 2006 elections. However, in 2005, by virtue of Article 290 of the Constitution, the term of the lower councils was extended to expire at the same time as the term of the President in May 2026. The purpose of the extension was for the general election to be held at the same time for the President, Parliament, and the local government councils. Article 61(2) and Article 3 of the Constitution were therefore amended to reflect this. However, before any local government council elections could be held, as envisaged by Article 61 of the Constitution, Constitutional Petition number 21 of 2006 was instituted by one, Rubaramira Ruranga, challenging the constitutionality of the laws relating to the conduct of the elections of local government councils. The Constitutional Court held that certain provisions of the Local Governments Act were inconsistent with the Constitution, especially those relating to the elections, since they do not reflect the multi-party political system. However, the court was emphatic on the need to amend the Local Government Act before any elections could be validly held. In 2007, following the judgment of the Constitutional Court, the Electoral Commission suspended the elections in respect of the administrative units, that's village and parish ward, pending the amendment of the laws affected by the judgment of the Constitutional Court. The Local Government Act was amended by Parliament in 2008 to address the matters declared unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court in petition number 21 of 2006. Further amendments were made in 2010 to the Electoral Commission Act, which required the Electoral Commission to provide paper copies and electronic copies of the updated voters register to the political parties and organizations taking part in the elections. See section 18A of CAP 140. The cost of complying with this provision was unbearable, and therefore, in order to reduce the cost of holding the election, Parliament made further amendments to the Local Governments Act in 2013, and lastly in 2015, to introduce lining up behind a candidate at the time of the election, which is one of the ways permitted by Article 686 of the Constitution. In order to facilitate the Electoral Commission to organize the elections, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has now released the required funds for the elections. As you are aware, Right Honourable Speaker, Honourable Members, under Article 6.1 and 6.7 of the Constitution, it's the mandate of the Electoral Commission to organize elections. However, the term of the Electoral Commission having expired, there is currently no Electoral Commission constituted to execute the constitutional mandate of the organizations. I must say I'm very grateful to you, Madam Speaker, for passing the nominees, and we are in the process of constituting the Electoral Commission. Right Honourable Speaker, members, His Excellency the President here, this one has been overtaken, recognizing the importance of the fully constituted Electoral Commission and exercising the power vested in the President by Article 60 of the Constitution, nominated persons to be appointed members of the Electoral Commission. The list of persons nominated by the President has been approved by Parliament before they can be appointed by the President in the fulfillment of Article 60 of the Constitution. Now that they've been approved, they are going to be appointed, and since it is only the Electoral Commission which is mandated to conduct the elections, the date for the holding of the elections at administrative units and in respect of the councillors for workers can only be set unless the Electoral Commission is fully constituted and appointed as required by Article 60 of the Constitution. I beg to submit. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Yesterday, of course, we received the assurance from the Ministry of Local Government that they are ready for those elections. But anyway, we've done our part. The rest is for the government now. Yes, Honourable Nwagaba.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I just wanted to seek 2 points of clarification from the Honourable Minister. One, since the commissioners have been approved by Parliament, when he hopes he can liaise with them to come with a comprehensive timetable and furnish it to this Parliament. When does he hope to do that, now that the commissioners have been approved by Parliament? Secondly, whether he has liaised with his colleague in the Minister of Local Government to bring any regulations or amendments that are required in the law for us to have this exercise done once and for all. And if he has not, when he hopes to do so, and again report to this Parliament.
Okay, Tayot, and then Olanyi. Honourable Tayot.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for that statement. I also want to seek clarification. When he's talking of local councils, does this include also the women councils? Because as we know, elections for women councils have not taken place. We have youth council in place, disability council, the older persons council. So I want also to know whether these elections will also take care of the women councils. Thank you.
Honourable Olanyi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I remember in the 9th Parliament, members were trying to debate the modes of voting. Others were saying shall be done through lining up, and the Electoral Commission was saying it was very expensive to use the ballot papers. I would like to find out from Honorable Minister if you can clarify to Honorable members, because our voters are asking us, since last time they had the rumors that it will be done through lining up, so they are really not sure. If you can clarify. Thank you.
But I thought that's a settled matter, didn't we? We are enacted that law. That's a settled matter. It's a settled matter. Okay, final one. Hold on, Muyanja.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I would like to get it from the Honourable Minister whether we are going to have new LC1 was created, because there are so many demand for more expansion and separation of some LCs. I don't know whether it's going to also take place in the forthcoming LC1 elections.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, let me start with the last question. It's not prudent for us to start creating new administrative units at this stage when we are about to hold elections. Because once we start, then the division will be ad infinitum, and we shall not go to hold these elections as required, and since they've been delayed for a very long time. Normally, we don't. It's expensive to start now the divisions, and it will cause unnecessary delay, which is not envisaged. 2, the question of lining up has been sorted out by the law. 3, as for whether the the women councils and workers councils and so forth will be held together with the LC1 elections, I will have to consult with my colleague, the minister responsible for those departments, and then the minister for finance to see whether there is sufficient provision for holding those elections at the same time. That's desirable, but I don't know whether it is possible. As for the municipal councils, that one is a major election which involves campaign, and you know that they cannot be held together with the local council elections. An appropriate time will have to be set aside for the holding of those elections. No, I've talked about the holding elections of the women councils and PWDs and workers. Those I'm going to harmonize with the minister responsible for that portfolio, and we shall see whether we can do it together. Like I've said, Madam Speaker, it's desirable that those elections should be put together so that we put them behind us. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Thank you. Next item. Item 3.2.
Item 3.2, the action plan for mitigation of the disastrous food insecurity situation in Uganda.
Minister of Agriculture. Out here. Item 4.
Item 4.
I will
Yes,
not
no,
get tired, Right Honourable Speaker, to point this out. Right Honourable Speaker, this is a parliament of the people of Uganda with serious business to consider, and we have the order papers sent in advance, and I know the responsible ministers, wherever they are, they should be in position to watch and be able to come in time. And I can assure you and the Honourable House that not all members of cabinet are in cabinet, and I don't want to be their spokesperson. But what is true is that, Right Honourable Speaker, unless action is taken, this is bogging us down. Right Honourable Speaker, don't allow this house to be taken lightly. If we proceed in this manner, we shall end up having no sittings at all. And they are always here. And they heard you yesterday saying members be in the house, let us transact business. But where are they? So, Right Honourable Speaker, again.
Information from the Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, whereas the Honorable Sechikubo is justified to complain, but allow me to inform you today that there is cabinet taking place at Entebbe. There is cabinet. There will be.
Point of procedure. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, yesterday you directed that the ministers are supposed to be in this house. And Right Honorable Speaker, our rules of procedure stipulates if the concerned minister is not present, you will be notified, Madam Speaker, in your office. Is it procedure right for the minister who is a veteran in this house, who knows our rules of procedure, to attempt to inform our speaker without following the right procedure? Is he procedure right? Honourable members, I did not receive notification from any of the others that they are not coming, so I expect the Minister of Agriculture to come to this house in the next 1 hour so that he attends to our business.
Madam Speaker, as I speak, all the ministers are on their way coming. I hope they will be here to answer for themselves. I thank you.
Okay, item 4.
Item 4, laying of papers.
Can I ask the acting leader of opposition to help me lay the papers? Yes, Commissioner Law. You can't do it from the other side.
Madam Speaker, the effect will be the same. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers. The sub-counties reports and opinions of the Auditor General for the financial years ended 2011 and 2012. 1. Sim sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Namisuni sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Away sub-county, Aletongo district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Russia sub-county, Bujiri district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Ruamata sub-county, Chivoga district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Kapeka sub-county, Chivoga district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Nawayango sub-county, Kamuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Muwanga sub-county, Chivoga district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Masira sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Nyero sub-county, Kumi district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Rodiko sub-county, Kabongo district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Kapiri sub-county, Ngora district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Akoa sub-county, Amuria district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Burago sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Bumasobo sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Watuba sub-county, Chivoga district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Bukonge sub-county, Bolambuli district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Bukomero sub-county, Chivoga district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. And finally, Okungu sub-county, Amuria district. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner. They are sent to the Local Government Accounts Committee for perusal and report back.
Item 5, Prime Minister's question time.
We'll defer it until he arrives. Let's go to the next item.
Item 6, consideration and adoption of the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on Uganda's foreign missions and properties abroad.
Yes, Honorable Sechiko.
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker, I remember very well yesterday, you directed the minister to be in the house, to come to the house, so that this very critical and important report is debated in the presence of the minister, Right Honorable Speaker. And it is the reason why debate yesterday was stalled. I beg to draw to your attention that the same today, the minister is not yet here. Right Honorable Speaker.
So we'll defer it until they come back from the cabinet. Let's go to item 7.
Item 7, motion for presentation, consideration, and adoption of the report of the Committee on National Economy on the request by government to borrow $64.44 million, equivalent of 1.0 million US dollars from the African Development Bank, ADB, and UA 42.50 million, equivalent of 0.0 million US dollars from the African Development Fund to support the multinational Uganda Rwanda Busega PG and Gajitumba Kayonza Lusamo Roads project.
Chair, Committee of National Economy. Yes, Honorable Banywa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, our business today is all based on the presence of our ministers. Seeing from the front bench and from your sub-direction, Madam Speaker, the ministers are on the way. And they said within 30 minutes they will all be here. Madam Speaker, I'm wondering whether we would be proceeding well in the absence of the necessary ministers who are supposed to take note of the concern and debate of the House. Wouldn't it be maybe necessary that we adjourn the House for 30 minutes? When they don't come, then another step be taken.
Honourable members, we are here with our ears. Let us listen to the report. If by the time the chair finishes, they are not here, we'll take another decision. But the ears are in this House. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honorable members. The report of the Committee on National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow 64,440,000 units of accounts, which is equivalent to 91 million US dollars from the African Development Bank, and 42.5 million units of accounts, equivalent to $60 million from the African Development Fund of the African Development Bank Group for financing the Busega Mpigi Road project. Madam Speaker, I wish, before I proceed, I would like to lay on table the following documents: a copy of the signed report, the signed minutes, Madam Speaker, the brief on the proposal, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the RAP report on the project. Madam Speaker, I have a complete file here containing donor-funded projects by UNRWA, the National Transport Master Plan, the project and appraisal report, the project financial performance, project implementation plan, and project procurement plan, and I would like to lay all these on table. Madam Speaker, by way of introduction, this loan request was presented to Parliament and referred to the committee under Rule 166, Sub-Rule 2B on the 20th of September 2016. And Madam Speaker, we considered that we scrutinized the request following using the following methodology indicated in paragraph 2. We held meetings, we studied documents, and Madam Speaker, the background...
Honorable Chair, before you go, I wanted to clarification whether this is a Busega Mpigi and Kagitumba Kayonza Rusomo.
Yeah, it's the same. It's part of it. Yes, this is the first phase. This is Busega Mpigi Expressway as part of the longer route connecting to Katuna. This is a phase in the middle. Yes.
Okay, proceed.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, by what background, the provision of an efficient road network has been an important focus and a key ingredient in the development efforts of African governments and the donor community in recent years. And therefore, government has accorded significant importance to the provision of a sound and well-coordinated transportation system. Madam Speaker, the Busega Mpigi Express project is located in central Uganda and forms part of the Northern Corridor. The existing Busega Mpigi Road is currently a two-lane Tamaka Road, one lane in each direction, and is highly congested, especially at Busega, with over 20,000 vehicles per day. The road links to Rwanda and Tanzania and will entail the construction of a new 4-lane express highway of 23.7 kilometers plus 20 kilometers of 2-lane link, service roads, and 12 kilometers of interchange loops and 8 kilometers of auxiliary lanes. Madam Speaker, paragraph 4, the project is aligned to the country strategy as indicated in paragraph 4, and paragraph 5 gives the project objective with the sector goal of the project, which is to contribute to socio-economic development, poverty reduction, and regional integration through an improved and sustainable transport system that links centers of economic activities. The project objectives are to contribute to improving road transportation and trade facilitation, and to stimulate and spur local economic activities. The expected outcomes, Madam Speaker, are given in the table under paragraph point 1, and the project description and components are given under paragraph 2. Under paragraph 2, where we have a detailed breakdown of the components. Madam Speaker, under paragraph 6 is the project cost and financing arrangement. The cost estimate of the Busega Mpigi Road project is 136.13 units of accounts, which is equivalent to 629.65 billion shillings. The project cost by components and source of finances are shown in table 2. In table 2 in the report. Madam Speaker, the financing. The Mpigi Busega Road project will be financed by the African Development Bank, African Development Fund, and the Government of Uganda. The financing from African Development Bank of 64.44 units of accounts, equivalent to $91 million US, is going to cover 47.34 of the total project costs. The financing from African Development Fund resource under the ADB performance-based allocation and the ADF regional cooperation envelope of unit serve accounts 42.5 millions, which is equivalent to $60 million US, is to cover 31.22% of the total project cost. Government of Uganda will finance 21.44% of the total project cost, amounting to 29.19% of the project. The sources of financing are itemized under Table 3. And Madam Speaker, the construction of the new 4-lane Busega-Mpigi Express Highway takes the highest share of the total cost, followed by compensation. Government of Uganda will provide counterpart funds equivalent to units of account 29.19 million, which is 21.44% of the total project, for implementation of the resettlement action plan in order to implement the entire construction of the new Busega-Mpigi Express Highway. Madam Speaker, the loan terms are given under paragraph 7, which is African Development Bank loan has got a repayment period of 25 years with a grace period of 8 years, and the ADF loan has got a repayment period of 40 years with a grace period of 10 years. Interest, the interest is also indicated. Madam Speaker, the loan conditions are stated under paragraph 7.2, and under 7.3, the effect of the loan on the debt situation of the country. Madam Speaker, the loan will no doubt increase our total nominal public debt. That is currently at 7.4 billion. This is at the end of, there is a mistake here, it's at the end of November 2016. External debt contributes 59.2% of the total debt, and the local debt contributes 4.5%. The last debt sustainability assessment was revealed that both in the medium and long term, Uganda's public and publicly guaranteed external and domestic debt is sustainable and is not under debt stress when subjected to the stress test. Madam Speaker, paragraph 8 talks about the implementation arrangements, whereby UNRWA is going to be the executing agency, and the executive director of UNRWA is going to be the accounting officer. The project...
Chairperson, just continue. Finish your report. You'll speak later.
Procedure.
Take your seat. Chairperson, please. Present the report.
The project will be implemented over a period of 3 years, beginning 2018. And UNRWA will procure the operator. It is going to be a toll road, and UNRWA will procure the operator under the toll arrangement. Madam Speaker, paragraph 9 is the observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that the functionality and operation of Busega-Mpigi Express Highway appears to be heavily dependent on availability of the Kibuye-Busega section of the road. Otherwise, no traffic will be able to access the Busega-Mpigi Express Highway, since the existing Kibuye-Natete-Busega road is heavily congested. The committee therefore recommends that the Kibuye-Busega section of the express highway be fast-tracked to ensure that the two road sections are completed at the same time to derive the benefits of the high capacity of Busega-Mpigi Express Highway and its congestion of the city. Madam Speaker, as we all know, there is a lot of congestion from Chitugumu House up to Busega. And yet this road is coming in after Busega. So we felt that there is urgent need for government to decongest this part of the city in order to feed into the road which is going to be implemented in this project. The committee further observed that it is proposed to tow the project road in a bid to supplement the operation and maintenance costs, yet the study to assess the willingness of the road users to pay and how much they are willing to pay has not been concluded. The committee therefore recommends that the willingness to pay study be expedited to provide guidance to users' willingness to pay and how much users are willing to pay to enable proper structuring of the operation and maintenance arrangements and location of total pay points. Madam Speaker, the third observation made the committee was that whereas it is proposed to tow the project road, there is no legal framework for tolling in the country, which is likely to create challenges in operating the new express highway. The committee, this does not only affect the Mpigi Express Highway, but even the Entebbe Express Highway. It's going to be a toll road, and yet we don't have a tolling legislation in place yet. The committee recommends that the Minister of Works and Transport fast tracks the preparation and approve of the tolling policy and tolling legislation to be brought to Parliament for consideration. Government should come up with a toll pay legislation to be considered expeditiously. The observation number 4, the committee observed that, like a Kampala Expressway, progress of work for this particular project is likely to be affected by land acquisition issues in the land corridor relating to delays in compensation of landowners. Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the strategies for timely and expeditious land compensation, relocation of utilities, project-affected persons on sections of the road project be handled expeditiously in advance of the construction works to preempt any contractor claims for costs and time lost due to lack of unhindered access to the site. Furthermore, the committee recommends that all valuation for project-affected persons should be done before the loan requests are made to Parliament, and this is general for all infrastructure projects, because we are getting delays because the valuations are done late and compensations are not done in a timely manner, which affects the implementation of infrastructure projects. The committee further recommends that all future valuations of project-affected persons should be done before loan requests are made to Parliament. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that currently there is weak local contractor capacity, which results in all the projects being executed by foreign firms and construction materials being sourced from foreign countries, with the result being loss of jobs and increased unemployment in the country. The committee therefore recommends that the Minister of Works and Transport should put in place a policy to promote the development of local construction industry through reservation schemes and all prescriptions that all locally available materials should be sourced locally in order for us to get a reasonable local content from these projects. The committee further recommends that the Minister of Works and Transport should put in place a policy to promote the development of local construction industry through reservation schemes and further training of Ugandan engineers and nurturing them in ethics of business to reduce reliance on externally sourced consultancy services should be emphasized. Sources of long-term funding to facilitate acquisition of equipment be explored, because most of our local contractors are struggling. They can't borrow money easily, and even those who can't, the money on the market is not commensurate with the kind of assets they want to acquire. Madam Speaker, the committee noted that there was a problem of lack of centralized planning, where different infrastructure development initiatives by different ministries and agencies, such as roads, water, electricity, are executed independently without central coordination, the result being conflicts in designs and duplication of costs of land acquisition. The committee recommends the following. UNRWA should complete well-if acquisition process before engagement of contractors. This will minimize redundancy of equipment on site and possible interest charges on idle equipment. Government should consider acquiring a central corridor for infrastructure projects to reduce unrepeated compensation whenever infrastructure projects are implemented, to accommodate, among others, power lines, water pipes, communication infrastructure, and road reserves. Furthermore, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should expedite the rollout of the World Bank-funded project on electronic land registry and preparation of standard valuations for different parts of the country. Valuation today depends on the mood of the valuer. There are no standard rates. As a matter of urgency, the Ministry of Lands and Housing and Urban Development should enhance the capacity of valuation departments, which is now too thinly manned to cope with the demand for land valuation, especially for infrastructure developments. We are told that in the valuer's office, land valuer's office, there are only 2 other valuers. And at the moment, there are so many infrastructure projects going on. So because of lack of personnel, the work is delayed. And following what happened when the government chief valuer and the UNRWA disagreed on valuation amount along Entebbe Express Highway, that led to the diversion of the road, government should consider setting up a land ombudsman to arbitrate in cases where there is disagreement in land valuation. Because the Entebbe Express Highway had to stop by about 7 months while they were sorting out the dispute on the valuation between what the government valuer was giving and what UNRWA thought was the reasonable amount. The committee recommends that the National Planning Authority should coordinate infrastructure development across the country to ensure that all planned infrastructure development initiatives are well harmonized to avoid government incurring unnecessary repeated costs. Madam Speaker, the committee further noted that whereas land is acquired for various infrastructure projects, it appears there is no one taking keen interest in safeguarding government property, resulting in people encroaching on government property and being compensated several times. The committee recommends that all land acquired by government be titled to reflect that the land belongs to government, and the acquired land for infrastructure corridors be monitored to prevent encroachment. Madam Speaker, based on those recommendations, the committee has noted that the committee has noted the government continued development of Uganda's infrastructure with more focus on the roads infrastructure. The status of Uganda's infrastructure still requires improvement to meet the aspirations of 2040. Government has undertaken reforms in the road subsector, which are expected to lead to improvement in the state of national roads and better utilization of resources allocated to the sector. The construction of the Busega-Mpigi Express Highway, for which this financing is sought, will enhance regional connectivity, decongest Kampala city, and accelerate economic growth. The committee therefore recommends that the request for government to borrow 64,440,000 units of accounts, equivalent to $91 million from the African Development Bank, and 42,500,000 units of accounts, equivalent to $60 million from the African Development Fund of the African Development Bank Group for financing the Busega-Mpigi Express Highway project be approved subject to the above recommendations. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and the members of the committee. Now, honorable members, this loan request is from the government, but I don't know whether they're interested in it because the Minister of Finance is still not here. Minister of Works is not here.
So maybe they have no interest in this loan request. Yes, Minister of Housing.
Madam Speaker, it is expected that the ministers you've just mentioned will be here. The cabinet meeting took place in Entebbe, but they are coming. However, we are here, Madam Speaker. Issues of land were raised, and I am here. So let it not be said that there is nobody to answer some of the questions that have been raised. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Wanywa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. It's comforting to know that Honourable Minister is already saying he's able to answer, but we want to know whether officially he's left to answer for even for Ministry of Finance, Transport, as we had earlier proposed. In light that it is not possible, Right Honourable Speaker, which is the truth of the matter, probably we could go for the next item on the agenda and just come back for this. Otherwise, I don't see, Right Honourable Speaker, that the Honourable Minister just wanting to comfort the House, he's able to handle all these sectors.
No, I think he said he's available for his sector. But let us receive the next report. If by then they haven't come, we shall go for a holiday. Honorable Chair, Butalangu, Luwero Butalangu Road.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. Madam Speaker, the report of the Committee of National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow $11.5 million from the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADEA, and $11.5 million from the OPEC Fund for Economic Development, OFID, to finance the upgrading of the Luwero Butalangu Road. Madam Speaker, allow me, before I proceed, to lay on table the following documents. Madam Speaker, signed report, the signed minutes, the evaluation report and survey report, the National Development Plan 2 compliance, the RAP report, the RAP report, the resettlement action plan, and the project appraisal documents, all of them here. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Rule 166, Sub-Rule 2B, this request was submitted to our committee for scrutiny. And we followed the methodology indicated in paragraph 2, whereby we interacted with the government agencies, and we studied several documents which are indicated there. Paragraph 3 gives the background. The background to this is more or less the same background for the loan which I've just presented. Both of them are in the road sector. Madam Speaker, this proposal is also aligned to the country strategy. Madam Speaker, paragraph 2 gives the performance of projects under UNRWA. Madam Speaker, the performance has not been very good because of the slow absorption of loans, due to the delays in accessing, in getting counterpart funds for compensation, and also with valuation. And Madam Speaker, following on that, our committee has come up with very strict guidelines which have got to be followed by government whenever they are presenting loans for scrutiny. First of all, we want evidence from the Minister of Finance that the counterpart funds will be provided, firm commitment, and even proof in the budget that that money has been ring-fenced. We want evidence to show that they are in line with the National Development Plan. We also want evidence to show that the valuations, procurement plans, and others are in place in order to minimize the delays which have characterized earlier borrowing. Madam Speaker, we hope that if those guidelines, which by the way we are very strict with, and that's why we have taken quite a while without bringing these loans, because we had to make sure that all of them comply. We think these weaknesses will be cured. Paragraph 5, Madam Speaker, gives the project objective, and this is to upgrade the road to bitumen level and improve access to economically productive areas and stimulate and support local economic activities. Madam Speaker, the projected outcomes are given under paragraph 6, and the description of the project is also covered under paragraph 7. Madam Speaker, the key components of the projects are given under project 2, table 2, where they are broken down into details. And under paragraph 8, we cover the project costs. Civil works and ancillary works will take 76.68%, consultant services for construction 3.45%, project implementation unit support 1%, land acquisition 5.84%, physical contingencies 6%, and price escalation 7%. Madam Speaker, from the above, the bulk of the money is going for civil works and ancillary works. Madam Speaker, the project financing, as I've already indicated, is going to be funded from 3 sources. The OPEC Fund for International Development, which is going to fund 46.6% of the total cost, and the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADEA, we also cover an equal percentage, and Government of Uganda will fund 6.7% of the project. The terms are given under Table 5, Madam Speaker, and the loan conditions are clearly stipulated under paragraph 9.2. Paragraph 9.3 covers the concessionality. The BADEA loan, the BADEA loan is fully concessional, and the OPEC fund is near concessional. And Madam Speaker, with regard to project readiness, all these reports are pointers to the project readiness, so we think that the project is ready to move as soon as the loan is approved. The current debt status is already discussed in the previous loan. I don't have to repeat it. And the implementation arrangements are going to be, UNRWA is going to be the implementing agency, with the Chief Executive Officer of UNRWA as the accounting officer. Madam Speaker, observations and recommendations. The cost of the loan. The committee observed that part of the source of financing of the OPEC Fund for International Development is near concessional, implying that the projects must generate revenue in the medium term to government, as required by the public debt management framework. Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that government should, as much as possible, source appropriate financing consistent with the public debt management framework for projects whose financial returns are in the long term. Madam Speaker, effects on debt sustainability, government recommends that, the committee recommends that government should review the export strategy to substantially increase the export base in the medium term to safeguard against external shocks and be able to increase its ability to repay external debt. In addition, government should step up its efforts in domestic revenue collection. Land acquisition is the same recommendation. Committee recommends that strategies for timely expeditious land acquisition, relocation of utilities, project persons be done expeditiously, and the central corridor be acquired. It's the same recommendation on local capacity creation and on completion of well leaves. So the rest of the recommendations are the same like those on the loan which I presented before. Madam Speaker, Based on that, Madam Speaker, the committee noted that noted government's continued development of Uganda's infrastructure with more focus on the road infrastructure. The status of Uganda road infrastructure still needs a lot of improvement to meet the aspirations of 2040. Government has taken reforms to restructure the UNRA, and we hope it will deliver results. The construction of the Luweero-Butarang Road is one of the strategic focus of the National Transport Development Strategy, meant to enhance socio-economic development and poverty alleviation. The committee therefore recommends that the request for government to borrow $11.5 million from the Arab Bank of Economic Development for Africa and $11.5 million from the OPEC Fund for International Development to finance the upgrading of Luweero-Butarang Road project be approved subject to the above recommendations. I beg to move, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and the members of the Committee of National Economy. Honorable members, the report has been signed by the necessary minimum of 1/3, but I note that the recommendations right from yesterday are basically the same. So if we could have comments for about 30 minutes and then go to some other business. You can comment on either loan. Honorable Asamo, 3 minutes. Asamo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Chair and the members of the committee for the report. Madam Speaker, I think the issue of the local content is always coming up, and it's high time that we begin really thinking about our people, so that when these contractors come, they are able to either train our people, and we have people who remain behind to maintain this infrastructure. Because on many occasions when they leave with everything. They come with their people and everything. So I think I want to make a proposal that we come up with a regulation or a policy on local content that can give percentages and quotas of how many Ugandans take up jobs in this infrastructure. And that's a proposal I wanted to make. And I also want to support the chairperson, the issue of government contribution. Usually these loans are passed, but the side of government delays the whole program. And you find that we take long, and yet we're supposed to pay back the loans. I think it's critical that government takes its responsibility critically. Madam Speaker, the issue of the toll, which the chairperson has just talked about, as the road is going to be made, we know Entebbe Expressway is going on, but the policy on the way we are going to use the toll on the road is not yet very clear. I think the minister responsible should come up with that immediately so that we can discuss it and see, because it's going to have a cost, and we need to discuss it in Parliament and see how we can move it. Otherwise, I support the loan. Thank you.
So, Honorable Kitale, Ogan Katuntu, then I come this side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Committee of National Economy and the Chair for the report made. First of all, in ACE Parliament, when we passed the Entebbe Express Highway loan, it was envisaged that it comes with two others, the Mpigi Kibuye extension, but also most importantly, the connection from the Munyonyo Spur to the Jinja Highway. So whereas I'm happy this has finally come after 10 years, I'm wondering what is happening with the Jinja Road. Secondly, Honorable Prime Minister, if Uganda does not build the capacity for local content in terms of construction companies, at this point in time when we have the dams, when we have these roads by Chinese, then we have completely relegated that responsibility as a government. If we don't do the MUCO now, and we continue having still, when we have standard gauge and dams from elsewhere, we have have abdicated our responsibility as citizens to ever have that capacity. You will never get it again. You will look for the same companies to come and rehabilitate. Can we break down these contracts so that we can have subcontracting to some level of 20%, 15%? That's the way other countries do it. The other point is about the compensation. Government has up to now refused to work as one government. It has been made by the Committee of National Economy many times and Infrastructure Committee. Can we get well leaves for multi-purpose? So you can see in the same Kibuye direction in Pigi, transmission lines have just been acquired. And tomorrow it will be something else. Why don't we do that? Finally, and not on a selfish ground, I have seen all these loans and all these roads in Uganda. But Bulisa, which is a road to the border, the alternative to West Nile, where you are going to get the oil to pay most of these loans you are borrowing now, our road is not anywhere. And we are going to pay a lot of money in recoverable cost. The container from Kampala to Bulisa is going to be like the cost from Mombasa, because we have done our own roads and forgotten the road where we're going to get the oil from. Bunyoro, Bulisa has given you timber, has given you Kinyara Sugar Works, has given you fish for export. Why don't you make our road a priority? It is unfortunate that we are doing roads elsewhere, but roads, this tourism road of Bunyoro, the Lake Albert Road, the alternative road to West Nile, the road to Congo, the shortcut if you wanted the water multimodal transport through Pakwach and go to Nimule, Sudan, is that Bulisa Road. But government has not found it a priority. Every time it comes, there is an excuse for not doing it. So let's, as a country, pay a very high price in terms of recoverable cost, because we have not found it a priority to make a road where over 600 oil wells are, but we are making roads where people are drying cassava on the roads and cows are now moving on tarmac. Can I make a plea to government that we make it a priority, that Bulisa Road, I will not support any other loan in future unless I see this road being done. I thank you so much.
Now, Aogan, then Katuntu, then I come to the side.
Thank you. Thank you so
3
much,
minutes, please.
Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me first to appreciate the committee and also the chairperson. I think you have enough experience and you have handled it well. To allow me to appreciate the Honorable Prime Minister and the front bench. From nowhere now the bench is full, and I appreciate it really. The ministers are there to answer our queries. Madam Speaker, I am here to support the recommendations of the committee, but with a few observations to make. One, you talked about the safety zones with our borrowing. When I was rising up on the point of procedure, I didn't want to shoot down the report, but to ask you to do one thing. To always be coming up with the details in terms of these figures. If we are really safe to be borrowing more, by what figures, by what percentages? That is what I'm talking about. So that the bar should be seen by everybody. If we are left with 1 billion to borrow next, everybody should be able to know, so that we are safe. We don't want to over-borrow blindly. It's like for us as Uganda, everything now is about borrowing. When you bring a comprehensive report, that will show us how much we have spent locally, how much we have got in terms of debt. I think those are the details. Otherwise, for the committee, you are doing your work. Press on. For me here, I will be supporting you. But there is a road in Kumi. Moving from Kumi town via the new ferry, which is in Ibisina, over to Toroma, you go to Katakwi. That road needs a serious tarmac. There are tourists who are warming up to be going to that place because we have a lot there. But you are delaying. Madam Speaker, through you, I also demand that you do something, so that next time we just support the laws to be approved. Otherwise, we shall lock up the gate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Katuntu, then Honorable Babiku, Rwakojo, Macho.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. did move to the table because I have one or two documents I would like to read to the House. Right Honourable Speaker, colleagues, currently, as you could be aware, the committee I happen to lead is currently dealing with the Auditor General's reports covering many entities, including the Uganda National Roads Authority. What is going on, Right Honourable Speaker, in that committee leaves a lot to be desired on part of the entire sector, especially the Uganda National Road Authority. We are dealing with the Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway, Right Honourable Speaker, the most expensive road in the world, 54 kilometers, costing us $475 million. Not anywhere in the world do we have the costing of that road. But one issue, Right Honourable Speaker, which is relevant about this loan request is, the rest will wait for the committee report, that when we ask the contractors, first of all, how they were procured, their response has been, this process was approved by Parliament when approving the loan, which we have found it very hard to reconcile. That now Parliament is being blamed by the contractors that you actually knew. And it's on record. So as we pass these loans, I would like to caution colleagues that we need to be sure of the procurement processes. We pass the loan, and eventually what Ministry of Works has been doing is actually to turn into a procurement agency, against all rules of procedure, against all rules of procurement. Right now, Honourable Speaker, in here I have 4 documents. There is a big war going on between Ministry of Works and UNRA. And let me read one letter and then the response for you to know the magnitude of this problem. On the 18th of April, Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister of Works wrote the following letter to 18th of April 2016. Wrote this letter to the Executive Director. I refer to the meeting which took place in State House on Thursday, chaired by His Excellency the President, and attended among others by myself and Permanent Secretary to the Treasury. The meeting agreed that the above captioned project, which is Chibuye-Busega Express project, revert back to Export-Import Bank of China under the current upgrading of Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway. This is therefore, not this, to instruct you that you start processing the addendum to the contract to incorporate the construction and upgrading of Chibuye-Busega Road. There is a different project, financed differently, and procurement has gone on, which is very irregular because it's the one we are now considering. Now the minister is instructing UNRA to amend the other contract and add on this particular project against rules of procurement. And he goes on. Right Honourable Speaker, this is on the 18th of April. On the 18th of May, no, actually on the 26th of April, the Executive Director writes back, rebuking the Minister of Works. It's a very long letter, Right Honourable Speaker. I don't know whether I should read it.
I think read it so that we can understand what the problem is.
It goes, reference is made to your letter dated the 8th of April, vide that caption. In the said letter, you raised the following issues. processing the addendum for Kampala-Entebbe Express contract to incorporate the construction and upgrading of another road, Chibuye-Busega Road. Offer of CCCC to pre-finance land compensation. Can you imagine? Now even land compensation, the contractor is the one trying to do that, the sort of thing Honorable Chai was talking about. And acquisition of the right of way for 1 year at a cost of $40 million. The contractor pledged to assist the government in securing $229 million from Exim Bank of China. UNRWA welcomes this report. However, I would like to draw your attention to the following legal challenges. One, statutory instrument of 14 of 2014 of the PPDA, and it is contracts regulations, Rule 55. Section 4 states that a single contract amended shall not increase the contract price by more than 15% of the original price. Section 5, where a contract has been amended more than once, the cumulative value of all contract amendments shall not increase the total contract price by more than 25%. The contract for Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway already has 2 addenda. One signed for utility allocation of $3.5 million, and the second being processed for Kunguru interchange and lighting remaining section of the express highway of $42 million. If the second addendum is signed, the cumulative increase of the original contract price will be 9.5. This means that 15.5 is remaining on this contract for the addendum. The proposed new addendum is $229 million, representing 48% of the original contract price, and can therefore not be processed because doing so contravenes provisions of the PPDA Act as highlighted above. We have explored the use of direct procurement method which is provided for in the PPDA Act. However, the law provides stringent conditions for use of direct procurement as reproduced below. The executive director is trying to explain why they can't go ahead with the minister's instruction of direct procurement of this particular contract. Direct procurement is a sole source procurement method for procurement requirements where exceptional circumstances prevent the use of competition. Direct procurement shall be used to achieve efficient and timely procurement where the circumstances do not permit a competitive method. The proposed procurement does not fulfill these above conditions, neither of the law, because there are no exceptional circumstances. To prevent competition, and sole sourcing is not the most efficient method of procurement. The fourth schedule of the PPDA, she goes ahead, it's quite long, honorable members, but let me leave out the laws and go to the substance. The proposed procurement of Kibuye-Busega Road Works does not satisfy the requirements above. While subsection 1B rules out the application of 2, 3, and 4 to justify direct procurement because the original contract of Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway was not procured through competitive processes and value of additional works exceeds 15%. The point is here, even the contract they are wishing to amend and add an addendum was not procured through a competitive process. It was just a boardroom award. The letter of CCC to you and the Honourable Minister of Finance, copied to UNRWA, shows that the estimated cost of constructing the 9.1 kilometer of Kibuye-Busega Road is $229 million, which translates into a unit cost of USD 25.4 million per kilometer. USD 25.4 million per kilometer. This cost is 2.5 times higher than that of Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway, which is about $9.6 million per kilometer. I'm aware this section has major bridge structures as Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway, but does not, and therefore there is no reason why the unit cost should be 2.5 times higher. This further undermines the case of direct procurement and justifies the need of competitive bidding. Honorable Minister, it is legally impossible to justify direct procurement of CCCC because there is no evidence to show that it is the only company that can assist the government to get funds from Exim Bank of China or pre-finance land compensation for 1 year. I recommend open competitive bidding for this project and indeed any other in order to get competitive rates and comply with the law. Pursuant to Section 8 of Functions of the Authority, that's UNRA, subsection 1C of the Act, I would like to advise government, and this is the Executive Director, I would like to advise government against single sourcing of this particular contractor because it is not consistent with the law. The unit cost is too high and it will discourage government efforts to reduce the unit cost of road construction. As we do approve these loans, as we do get excited that there is another road coming, we need to take into consideration some of these things going on. Honourable members, it's for real. It is for real. And I hope the committee took into consideration some of these issues when they brought this report. And if they didn't, have a second chance and ask the relevant questions. This House should not just be a rubber stamp of loans until we examine these projects. There's a lot of rot going on in the road sector. The road sector takes over $1 trillion shillings of our national budget. It is the only sector taking the biggest chunk of our national budget. If we rush through these processes, approving these loans, and eventually the contract say, after all, you approve this loan, even if we do bad things, you are the one who procured us. Parliament is not part of procurement. But now that's what they are claiming, Right Honourable Speaker. So, this particular one, we have taken it up to investigate, and Right Honourable Speaker, we should be ready with it, because the whole thing going on is a little bit more than we can chew as a committee. We have decided we need guidance now from this House. You need to have all the, I don't know them. You need to have all the details and then guide the committee. Even this small money we have so far recovered, around 46 billion by today, around 46 billion. It's not the only money that has been misappropriated. I would like to ask, therefore, the chairperson of the committee, are you aware that there is a big problem in the procurement of the contractors going to undertake this project? And the information we have actually is that the Ministry of Works has been awarding contracts and uses UNRA to rubber stamp those contracts, like the example being given, which is being resisted by the current management of UNRA. They have resisted this and they are on a coalition course with the ministry. Secondly, I think later on we shall have to address Plot 1 Uganda. Plot 1 Uganda is being pleaded for each and every problem. We agreed in the State House. We agreed this with the President. We agreed with this. Right Honourable Prime Minister, you need to discuss this matter with the boss, that every fraudulent contractor now is pleading Plot 1 Uganda. Right Honourable Speaker, maybe eventually as a committee we need to have audience with the Plot 1. Because it is reaching an extent where it can't be explained. For a contractor to come to us and say, don't ask us how we procured this, how we got this bid. We did it with the President, and we are assisting you. We can even leave this country. On record. What do you expect a chairperson of the committee to do if you are faced with such a contractor pleading having got a contract from His Excellency the President? So I think, yes, the President has this prerogative to make sure that his executive runs properly, but let him not turn into a procurement officer. Because once things go wrong, they plead him. And the office, the owner, the fountain of honor is dragged in this sort of controversy. Right, Honorable Speaker, I think our Committee on National Economy, as you scrutinize these projects, please take into consideration that the procurement goes correct. I thank you.
Now, Honorable Katuntu, I'm disturbed that it's being said that this house procured a contractor. How could we have approved it when it was not before this house?
Right, Honorable Speaker. First of all, it does not make legal sense, neither does it make a common sense. But what the contracts do once you approve this loan, and they are the ones who are procured the loan, it's like you have approved their contract. Yes, let me tell you why. Let me tell you what is happening. Right, Honorable Speaker, what government has done and allowed, which I think is not correct, is to allow these contractors to go looking for the money. And once they get the money, they automatically are entitled to the contract because they have sourced the money. And once that happens, then the contract is already given to them. That's what happened with the Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway. This particular contract, colleagues, the feasibility study was done by this particular contractor. The road design was done by this contractor. The sourcing of money by this particular contractor. And therefore, the contractor to do the road was the same person. So once you have approved the first process, you have approved the entire chain.
You will soon do the audit.
There are things happening and you don't want to believe that they actually happened. That's why you find that this particular road, the executive director is talking about, is going, he costs us 25 million, $25.4 million per kilometer. What is this that you are constructing? And there's a big war going on. Right now, Speaker, I should have laid this actually on the table. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll lay on table the letter written first of all by the Minister of Finance for Works, written on the 18th of April 2016, Honorable Minister Engineer John Byabagambi, addressed to the Executive Director. Then her reply, dated 18th of May 2016. Then his other reply, dated 5th May, and then her reply again, dated 18th of May. I beg to lay. So when you look at the figures, and really, Madam Speaker, I'll request, we have discussed this with you, that you give that you give us some time next week, at least to brief you what we've so far done. But my view about the road sector, honour members, go slow until this Parliament has had a full debate of the issues which have read that sector and therefore made the necessary directions.
Thank you, Honorable Ababiku Macho Rakojo.
then I'll get you the point in the middle.
Madam Speaker, just a point of procedure.
Yes, Honorable
Yeah,
Madam.
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In light of the grave revelations by Honorable Abdu Katuntu, which tend to show not only exaggerations in the costings, but also the exaggerations in the loan being requested. Is it not procedural right for the chairperson of the committee, who has read the reports before us, to clarify as to whether the committee considered the matters Honorable Abdu Katuntu has raised in order for us to proceed to debate?
Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first of all, the sources of funding for the loans I've requested are different. African Development Bank and African Development Fund. Their procurement methods are different from the Exim Bank. They use international competitive bidding. So there is no question of a contractor coming and source the money. It is through international competitive bidding. And this can be checked with the many infrastructure projects which are funded by the African Development Bank. And I think, on record, projects funded by African Development Bank are those which are least abused. And Madam Speaker, on the other funds from the Arab funders, the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa and the OPEC Fund for International Fund for Development are also subjected to international competitive bidding. They are not limited to a particular country. They are not limited to particular contractors. We looked at the cost, especially the Busega Express Highway. It has taken us almost 3 months discussing this project until we are convinced. At first, it looked like the first impression we got without much explanation, that the project was going to cost like $5 million per kilometer. We said no. Until we went back, examined it further, and we got satisfied that the cost per kilometer was between $1.4 and $1.5 million. And the one to Butarangu is less than $1 million per kilometer. So on the basis of that, Madam Speaker, I request the colleagues to proceed with these loans. I think the other sources have got their own peculiarities. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ababiku.
Thank you. Procedure, Madam Speaker. Procedure, Madam Speaker.
Point of procedure, Honorable Kakoza.
Madam Speaker, we are the people responsible for passing law constitutionally. And hearing from our colleague the facts given, I do think that it's prudent we do reconcile the facts mentioned by the information given before we pass this law. Isn't it procedure right that really, if these are facts, for Parliament to appropriate another amount of money, and they are pointing at the same sector, for the public, this is the summary of Ugandans, to prevent the abuse of the loans we pass. I would think that doesn't take long. Cross-checking figures and statements given on the floor, it does not take long. What does it cost for a committee to go back and reconcile those facts, and they bring a credible, comprehensive report, and we pass the loan? It doesn't take long. But for me, the information given, if it's true, then as members of Parliament, we shouldn't. Because now, what the public perceives now is saying you are rubber stamp. But your representatives, what is your job? You are the only person constitutionally mandated to pass the law. So why don't we reconcile these facts and we come out clearly? It takes 2-3 days. These figures are known, the letters are known. Why don't we stop for 2 days, 3 days and we pass the law? Otherwise, it's not correct. By the information given, I would proceed and debate the same, whereby we've got some facts and concerns from this House.
Honorable Chair.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank my good friend, Honorable Kakoza, for the proposal. But as I stated earlier, these are totally different loans. The sources are totally different. Yes. Yes. Madam Speaker, can I be given an opportunity?
Order.
Madam Speaker, the sources are different. How are we going to reconcile the Butalangu Road, the facts of the Butalangu Road, which has never been procured, with the Entebbe Express Highway? These are completely different cases. Let's look at each case on its own merit. Because these are standalone projects. Madam Speaker, I beg my colleague to submit.
You see, Madam Speaker, my only problem, the consumer is one. Minister of Works. And this is the person going to implement the project is the same person complaining. That's Uganda National Road Authority. He's saying, please, you are doing something.
Information, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Macho.
Information, Right Honorable Speaker. The fact of the matter is that, as the colleague has talked it out openly, the consumer is one. And as the consumer is one, let us first have this project that has been mentioned of Entebbe Busega Road put right before we can go on recommending that. Because we are having the same problem with the Busia Majanji Road. The time has so far surpassed. The duration given by the ministry has elapsed. People have overweighted. When we go on approving loans of the same ministry all the time, this will make the ministry to delay to implement all these loans that are given out. So we better give the chairperson and the committee time to go and finish up that. We approve that before we can allow business to move. Thank you. Right on.
Thank you for that information. Madam Speaker, source of funding, even if I borrow money from Standard Chartered Bank, and I borrow from, let me finish my point. Even if I borrow from Barclays, I'm the same person who is going to pay those loans, not anybody else. But the implementing agents, which we trust, and we created it for a purpose, that please manage this sector and we get the best result out of it. Value for money. Now the agency is saying, please, you are sending me something which I cannot consume. So if there is a concern, what does it cost to reconcile those figures, or that's to rectify that problem, so that all of us will move at the same page? It does not make sense. If there are loans from East Africa, the African Development Bank, and also loans from Exim Bank, this is the same government. And we are going to pay. It does not matter. They are going to use it on the same road.
Information. Right Honorable Speaker, I would really request, we shall work around the clock. Let us present our report, interim report, then you can go into, the House can go into the business of getting other loans.
Yeah,
Other loans. Let us consider this sector, the problems that have riddled this sector, including the current projects. Then we can embark on securing others. But if we go ahead and approve this particular project, tomorrow they'll be doing the same thing without guidance of this House. So why don't we wait? You give us a timeline. Then we can produce a report. Then from there, we can go ahead and start considering further business regarding other new projects.
Ono Migadde. Migadde. Ono Migadde.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm actually a member of the committee. That's national economy. The information given by Honorable Katuntu is very welcome. But one thing that we members should agree with, as a committee, we have done our work. We are not turning down information. And it's wrong for a member to say that let the committee go and complete the work or to reconcile. It means that actually the figures that the committee is presenting are actually false. Much as we can take the information for the sake of progress. And Madam Speaker, to be sincere, we are going to take the information, but we have spent 3 months purposely questioning different things. For example, the brief that was given to Parliament indicated that they were borrowing money to do 23.7 kilometers. That made the unit cost to go to $5 million per kilometer. We spent, and actually we were involved in over 10 meetings. And we got more information and more documentation. There were other 20 kilometers of 2 lanes. There are other, that's also service roads. There are other 12 kilometers of interchange loops, 8 kilometers. So, we appreciate the information given to the committee, and I only request my chair that let us not be seen like we don't want to consume information. Let's take the information, look at it. If it at all it can, yes, if at all it can create any change in our report. If it can't, then let us come back with the same report. So that's my prayer, my chair. I humbly request that we take up this information and we come back.
Honorable Ayo, then Mukitale.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the information from Honorable Muzale is clear that when they were given information, they went to the field and discovered that some of them were not correct. And they corrected them, including reducing the cost from $5 million to 1 point something. Now, I want to plead with the chairperson of the committee that as we talk of passing this loan now, there's a statement that there's a conflict between the Ministry of Works and UNRWA. So our request is let's first reconcile the conflict, because Ministry of Works is already showing conflict of interest in this very project. So if we pass the loan like this without checking what is behind the interest of Ministry of Works in terms of reconciling the interest with the UNRWA, then we are going back to the same problem, because we are going to end up in having the project going to be delayed. The procurement is going to have problems, and at the end of the day, this road project will be the same like the rest. So we are asking you to have time, go and look into those confusion, sort it out with the Ministry of Works, sort it out with the National Road Authority, and then you bring a concrete report when we know that after passing this loan, we are not going to have the same kind of problem. This is our prayer and our request, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Mukitale. Mukitale, then I come to Semuju.
Madam Speaker, the request by Honorable Katuntu, I believe, is in very good faith, and the conceding from Honorable Migade, who is a member of the committee, I think is all correct. But I would like to request, Madam Speaker, that a lot of these concerns raised by members have not been brought out to this Parliament, because on the order paper, if you've checked earlier, business to follow, there has been an item of performance of loans, there has been an item of the debt stock. Can we then agree that actually before these loans are brought, that this parliament gets privy to the performance of all the loans sector by sector?
Yes.
The story in works is not very different from the story in energy. The committee has this report. It's just a matter of allowing them one day to present that report, and a lot will be revealed whether there is a problem in the procurement. Because part of the Karuma management problem is that the procurement was also wrong. So don't expect any engineer to supervise a contractor he did not award in the first place. Secondly, the letters which have been exchanged here also indicts Ministry of Finance. The end user ministry is not a borrower. Government of Uganda borrows through Ministry of Finance. If it is true that between UNRA and WACS are the ones now determining the terms and conditions of loans, that's not an area for a user ministry. That is a mandate of Ministry of Finance. So I would want Ministry of Finance to respond to the committee report on performance of loans, debt sustainability, and debt stock, and confirm to this House whether Ministry of Finance is still in charge. Because what we are seeing, Ministry of Finance is not in charge, and my hunch, my guess, I strongly suspect, these contractors who are abusing the ACE Parliament were the supporters of the bilaterals, including China. But the bilaterals have been abused to the extent, they have been abused to the extent, Ministry of Finance is the one handing over contractors to end user ministries. And that's why you are seeing that collusion. Otherwise, a bilateral, it means government of Uganda agrees with China how many billions we are going to get for energy, for all sectors, and then the due process takes place. So, Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer, can we allow the committee mandate to update 10th Parliament on the performance of all loans in all sectors, and the Ministry of Finance responds, we shall find the problem therein. But only deal with this one loan, we are actually going to make much more mistakes without a bird's eye view, a holistic picture of what is a mess in that sector. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Somuju.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the request by the Chair Kosase is that this House first receives an interim report on the road sector and probably other sectors before we approve another loan. I am happy the Honorable Migade, who is a member of the committee, concedes that they may need to reconcile. They need to receive the information being given before they bring a comprehensive report. Madam Speaker, I'll just give an example here to support that proposal. The Busega MPG road project is 23 plus 20 kilometer of two-lane link plus 12. And the compensation is going to be 135 billion shilling for this particular project. The Entebbe Express Highway, much talked about. Compensation, I remember when I was a member of the Committee on National Economy under Honorable Mukitari, I think it was 280 billion shilling. The Northern Bypass, where we are constructing another 2-lane, I think compensation is over 80 billion shilling. Madam Speaker, before we approve another loan, this Parliament needs to examine the expenditure in the road sector. Because compensation alone will be able to construct almost twice the number of kilometers that are being brought to this parliament. Yet, in the recent case of Entebbe Express Highway, we learned that a piece of rock, a government value had said we need to compensate 39 billion shilling for a piece of rock. Even this, Busega MPG Express Highway, I think if someone examine the compensation alone of 135 billion shilling, because this should be the money to construct that express highway, and you'll find out the beneficiaries of these compensations in many cases are the same. Because the man of the rock on Entebbe Express Highway, just next to my residence in Weyogerere, where the southern bypass will pass, he has already procured a big chunk of land waiting for compensation. And they told me, even Ginger, he already has a piece of land within the road passage. There is connivance, Madam Speaker.
Information, Honorable Pecos.
Yeah, I wanted to give information to the Honorable Speaker here. This is really not new here. It's only in Uganda where land belongs to the people. I've been reading many things, but people don't own land. You lease on it. 3 years back in Kenya, they were making a road. The CDF then had a road in a road reserve. They wrote to him, remove your house, or we are going to remove it and send you the bills. And the man removed it. In Uganda, because he's next to the road, built a hut. He asked for billions, and things slipped down. Can't we have a way of seeing how do other people do it? Compensation is 3 times the cost of any kilometer. I want those who know to go and research what I'm saying, whether it's true. Thank you.
Therefore, Madam Speaker, you can clearly see there is connivance between those who design roads and many other government officials. Because how will one person know that there is going to be a road project called Entebbe Express Highway, so he hurriedly buys a piece of land where he claims 39 billion shilling in compensation, and the same person is already in Weyogerere where there will be southern bypass, but he also has a land where there will be Ginger Expressway. How does he know that these projects are coming up for him to begin acquiring land? So until, Madam Speaker, we've sorted out this connivance and the report of the COSASE will help, we can temporarily hold discussion on these loan requests, especially on the roads. Deal with the report of the COSASE, and then we can revisit the loan requests. But for this parliament to keep quiet as people are stealing billions of money, because just imagine a piece of rock, 39 billion shilling, maybe if I got it, I will never work again. Just one piece of rock. Yeah, Madam Speaker, I stood in support of a proposal that let's receive the report of COSASE on this sector, deal with the sector before we send more money to this sector, Madam Speaker.
Prime Minister, you wanted to say something?
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. It has been quite interesting to listen to this debate. First, I would like to share some information I have about some of these roads that are in controversy. And Entebbe Expressway, the conflict between UNRWA and the minister, and challenges of decision-making on contracts by plot number 1, Uganda. So, I would like to inform my dear brother, Honorable Katuntu, that this matter, the controversy over Kibuye Busega, some of the letters you quoted, was resolved a long time ago. And resolved well after the dates that you have talked about. Because His Excellency the President, perhaps a few months ago, about 3 months ago, chaired a meeting specifically on this road. And the road was thoroughly discussed at State House. The meeting was attended by Finance, by myself, by UNRWA, by all the parties concerned. And the decision was that because of this controversy and because of the exorbitant amounts of money quoted per kilometer, Uganda should advertise this road. We did agree that because the money comes from China, it would be advertised, but among the Chinese companies, instead of the road being tied to one specific company whose quotations were really very high. So I would like, therefore, through you, Madam Speaker, to really state that this matter raised by Ndugu Katuntu is already resolved matter, and I expect advertisements now to be going on looking for a competent company to do the job. Yeah, I'll accept your information, Honorable.
So you are going to get the adverts in China? You are going to advertise in China for Chinese companies?
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable.
Yes.
The information.
That one, yes, that one is, I will answer that, yes. When money, because money is being got specifically from China, it's a loan, of course, yes. There will be competition, but competition amongst Chinese companies. And we believe And we believe that will give us value for money. But I'll accept high
information. Right, Honorable Speaker. The Prime Minister, this information goes to you. We had a meeting with the contractors that we are talking about. And these very contractors believe they are the legitimate contractors who were given that road. For them, they do not believe they were given the road by the Minister of Finance then and the Minister of Works. And for them, they believe they are doing the right work. It is UNRWA and Works who are frustrating them. I really don't see how you're going to get out those contractors when they believe they are the legitimate contractors doing the work and who are given the work.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, let me just close that chapter by saying
Clarification.
no road can be done in Uganda without the people and the government of Uganda deciding on who shall do that road. So it's not for companies to decide. It is for government and people of Uganda to decide. The second point that I want to make.
Clarification. Honorable Prime Minister, clarification.
No, Bodu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. The point of clarification I am seeking from you is that once a loan is being agreed, there are terms and conditions that are put in the loan. Is there a clause stating the term that Chinese companies must be the one to undertake the construction of the work? Is it explicitly stated?
Can I give that information, Prime Minister?
Okay.
Right Honorable Speaker, the information I want to give to the House. Exim banks are not only in China. Uganda has been dealing with Japanese Exim Bank when I was still in private sector. The Chinese is the second one. There is India and many others. The principle of an Exim Bank, correct, is that it is an export-import bank promoting their companies to get a job. That is okay as far as that is concerned. What the Prime Minister is now telling us is the innovation we tried under that first loan, but we did not succeed as Parliament. Our argument then was, yes, money is coming from China, but can we allow the Chinese companies to compete? After all, most of them are government companies. We were not allowed. We were not allowed. I don't want to go how many meetings we had even outside Parliament here when it came to that. The mistake, as far as I know, the process of that loan is that, Regional Prime Minister and members, is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Uganda and Ministry of Finance initial a memorandum of understanding with the minister, their side is called of Trade and something, and Ministry of Finance. That's why by the time members, these loans come here, Cabinet has already okayed these loans. The problem we are having, the loans of Exim Bank in Uganda are coming with a contractor, for Cabinet approval. So if the Prime Minister is saying, now we have corrected that, that would be a good improvement. If the Prime Minister is going to tell us, this was even our argument on Karuma, it was our argument on Isimba. If the Prime Minister is now telling us that Cabinet is going to bring a loan request to Parliament without a contractor, allowing competition amongst Chinese companies, that would be an improvement. That's what we've been fighting for when this bilateral came. The abuse is actually around there. The moment comes the contractor, there is no competition, it becomes that company which signed there.
Clarification.
Ababiku and then Honorable Katuntu. Ababiku.
I had given clarification so that I can conclude.
Yeah.
If I can get from 100.
Let them both give you. Ababiku first.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I've listened carefully, but apart from these other controversies, what we had just raised was also an issue on the local content. And again, the Prime Minister just even said on how the governments agree to operate when we get these loans. If we got the money from China, it means those who are going to manage the construction probably will come from China. How can our country build the local content with this type of terms and conditions that we want to portray and we want to promote? Therefore, my clarification is, can the Right Honorable Prime Minister tell us, as we borrow and we refund with pain, how can we build our local contractors? Thank you.
Honorable Katuntu.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The most important person on any construction project is the consultant, because it's the chief technical advisor of the employer, in this case, UNRA. What happens is that this consultant is supposed to oversee all the construction works of the project on behalf of government or UNRA. However, like the Kampala-Entebbe Express Highway, the engineer was the consultant engineer was also procured by the contractor. Don't ask how, that's what happened. So the contractor got a consultant to supervise him, and also from China. And we are supposed to be paying this consultant. So you cannot have this sort of situation where the contractor recruits literally his own consultant. Then what UNRA did as an innovation is to also procure another contractor, so another consultant. So on this project we had two consultants, both being paid, and the payment is millions of dollars, colleagues, but doing the same job. Why? Because Right Honourable Prime Minister, I don't know whether you addressed that even the consultant is supposed to be procured from China by the contractor.
But, honourable members,
Motion, Madam Speaker.
I think our business is really done very casually. The other day we were in a meeting somewhere, and we found that the consultant for Isimba is the same consultant for Karuma. Yes, that's how the affairs of this country are run.
Motion, Madam Speaker. Motion, Madam Speaker.
Honourable.
Motion, Madam Speaker. Motion.
So, if I may make...
Motion, Madam Speaker. Motion, Madam Speaker.
Motion, Honourable Kakoza.
Motion, Madam Speaker. I want to raise a motion under Rule 50K. Our rules of procedure. Madam Speaker, after listening to the information given by our colleague and who does the work on behalf of our committee, on behalf of Parliament, listening to the report and also members' contribution, I do move a motion that the information given by Honourable Katuntu be reconciled by the Committee of National Economy, and they give us a comprehensive report, given 3 days or 4 days to reconcile the figures so that we can proceed to debate the report. I beg to move.
Now, honourable members, you know we are the 400 people who are planning for the 35 million, including committing them for loans to be repaid. I think we're required to exercise a very high level of expertise, due diligence. I want to propose that we defer a conclusion of this and we receive the report of COSASE. Even if we are in recess, this house can be called. This house can be called anytime so that we complete this work. Thank you. So debate on this is deferred. When are you ready? Are you ready tomorrow? If you are ready tomorrow, I'll put you on the order paper. When will you be ready? If you are ready tomorrow, I give you time to report.
Right Honourable Speaker, I do pledge to consult you, but can we tentatively agree that we should have that report ready Wednesday latest? But if it is earlier, I can consult your office, then you can give us space.
Let's meet, but I'll give you a date. We shall consult and I'll give you a date.
Much obliged, Right Honourable Speaker.
Okay. Prime Minister's question time. Item 5, Honourable Shava.
Thank you very much. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, my name is Patrick Insamba. I represent the people of Kassanda North. I sit on the Natural Resources Committee and Budget. The other day, as we were doing our parliamentary work on Natural Resources Committee, we happened to visit one of the industries on Ginger Road called Tembo Steels. And the conditions we found there under which our people were being employed were very terrible. They had no working gear. They were not cared for health-wise. And the conditions, I think probably you saw what was going on in the papers if you happened to see. Right Honourable Prime Minister, my question is government doing anything to ensure that the people we call investors are quality investors who are not here as capitalists, who are not here as capitalists, only making money and mistreating our people. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, the concern of my colleague about the conditions of the working people in factories and other places of work is very well taken. Workers in Uganda, and indeed workers of the world, deserve dignity. They deserve to work in safe and healthy environment. So really it's a question of enforcement to ensure that the existing laws about working conditions for the workers are enforced. That information is going to be taken up and then really ensure that the necessary steps are taken and the culprits are dealt with according to the law. But that information is useful and appreciated.
Honorable Tinka Simire, then Anywa, then I'll get both of you there. Yes. After here, we'll come there.
Right. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My question, I have 3 questions. One.
No, one question. One.
They will be very brief.
One question. The other members want to ask questions.
Okay. I have been following the newspapers about the people who were buried from Kasese. And I did not see among the dead people any child declared by those who picked any dead body by the authorities. I want to find out from the Prime Minister whether he wants to tell this country that an invasion in a palace, there was no child who was killed in that particular infamy or genocide.
Let him tell us.
Prime Minister.
Yes. Tell us.
If Honourable Tinka Simire can just be orderly and listen. Right Honourable Speaker, the Kasese situation was obviously a very unfortunate situation. We are going to get the details that transpired after the investigations, and the findings will be made public and shared with the colleagues in the Parliament. And Honourable Tinka Simire will without any doubt be a beneficiary of that information.
Honourable Anywa.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I would like to find out from the Right Honourable Prime Minister, is it the government policy that the students they undertake to sponsor are abandoned in the middle of their course undertaking, with a focus on Walter Kivuara, whose parents gave land to government for a construction of Tumango Health Center and has been abandoned in the middle of his course? Is it a government policy, and what are you doing about it?
Right Honourable Speaker, Honourable Beatrice and I have been following that case of Tumango, and government, as you know, is very appreciative that the family made land available for the building of the health center, and if the sponsorship of this young man has been stopped, we are going to follow it up, and I'm sure we'll get it corrected.
Honourable Badiri, then I'll come to you. After Badiri, both of you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the Prime Minister. Around 2015, government identified some sub-counties without government-aided secondary schools, and there are many of them. And they said they were going to take them and they fund them so that they become government-aided. May I know how many you have identified already which are going to be funded to become government-aided, and particularly this year? Because since 2015, I have not heard of anything. Please inform me which ones have you taken them and where are they? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, as all of us know, it is the promise of government to have secondary schools aided by government in all sub-counties, and it's a phased program. By the end of this mandate of 5 years, all sub-counties in Uganda will have government-aided secondary schools, and the Ministry of Education has a detailed program for that.
Honorable Mutebi Noah.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my concern goes to the Right Honorable Prime Minister on the unfunded or unfulfilled presidential pledges. Right Honorable Prime Minister, when the President was in Nakasongola in 2011, he pledged to construct a bridge on River Seziwa which borders Kayunga and Nakasongola. Madam Speaker, a number of people have died on this river using the canoe boats. There was an incident when 7 people were coming for a burial from Kayunga to Nakasongola, and all of them died on that river. Madam Speaker, I want to inquire from the Prime Minister, what answers can I give the people of Nakasongola when this bridge will be constructed on that river? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, presidential pledges, as soon as they are made, they are channeled for implementation and budgeting, of course, to the specific ministries. In the particular case of the bridge, the Ministry of Works will implement that. As to the details of implementation plan and timetable, you can pick it from the Minister of Works.
Honorable Twesje, then Honorable Asamo.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm called Twesje John Ntamuhira, Member of Parliament for Nyaruguru County Areas District. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister is about the challenges that are surrounding the implementation of non-formal skills training under the Ministry of Education. Right Honorable Prime Minister, would you like to explain to this August House whether the government is still interested in the non-formal skills training program, and if so, why is such program being frustrated, but at the same time, direct the Ministry of Education and Sports to come out with a statement on the matter surrounding this training? What is happening at the moment, Right Honorable Prime Minister? The Ministry of Education has been implementing this program for the last 6 years, and it is targeting the illiterate, semi-literate youth in the country, those who don't have any skill to perform any task to earn a living. But what is happening at the moment, the training institutions that are conducting that training are grumbling, are crying of no funding, but when they get the little funding, it comes in phases and cannot meet the intended target. Right Honorable Speaker, can the Right Honorable Prime Minister respond to those issues? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Member. Government had intended to train about 60,000 Ugandans under that program. Because of resource constraints, we have been able to train only 10,000. Nevertheless, with more resources available, more will benefit. With regard to an update on the matter, with more information by the ministry responsible for education, yes, the ministry will make a statement when Parliament reconvenes after the holidays.
Honorable Samo, then Mwijuke, then Hope.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are aware that every year teachers qualify, professional teachers in secondary education. But it's very unfortunate that they are never placed because of the ceiling. Could you explain to this house when we are opening this ceiling? Because these people are suffering down there. They are professionals. We lack human resources in schools, and these people are just seated at home and unable to use their skills to teach our children. When are we opening this ceiling for secondary teachers? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, that's a valid point. We would like these professional teachers to be recruited. The ceiling, however, has remained a bit tightly held because of resource constraints. With more resources, we'll be able to recruit more teachers.
Mwijuke, then Hope. Then Kinobere.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Earlier this year, the IPOD, Interparty Organizations for Dialogue, met at State House, and in that meeting, the chairman of NRM, His Excellency the President, was around in that very meeting, where he made a commitment in that meeting that he would commence dialogue headed by the Right Honourable Prime Minister before appointing the Electoral Commission. Just the other day, names were nominated and have been approved by the Committee of Parliament, by Parliament. The question is, will you inform the House whether the commitment was a hoax? And if it is still on, how relevant is it now that what he committed himself on is being taken by events?
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I agree with the Honourable Member that there was a meeting of IPOD at State House, which unfortunately was boycotted by FDC, although FDC was one of the organizing parties for that meeting. Secondly, it is true we did agree that political parties should dialogue, should talk to each other, and indeed the President asked me to pursue this matter. We have been pursuing this matter. The political parties that are willing to talk have been talking. Some that are not willing to talk have not come. Nevertheless, the governance of the country must continue. Therefore, the election or the appointment of the Electoral Commission was appropriate, and the country could not be without an Electoral Commission because of one or two parties that is not forthcoming on question of discussion. So the position, as stated by His Excellency the President, that government and the movement are always ready to talk to other political parties, and other actors still remains firm, clear, and consistent.
Honorable Hope. Namaingo. We are in Namaingo now. We are in the islands.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. My name is Mukisa Robina Hope, Mane Mpina Maingo District. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister is, the people of Meru Estate in Amaingo district are now having sleepless nights after having heard that no action is taking place by the government to compensate the landlords. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, you were there earlier next year and you promised that the government had already taken the process of compensating these people. Even this year, you were there, like in August, you promised the people that the process is going on. When I tried to consult from the ministry, I found out that nothing is there yet. So I would like to know from the Right Honorable Prime Minister, when is this process going to begin such that these people can start living freely on their land? Thank you so much.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, government has been planning and working on the program and is going to be actualized in the forthcoming budget. So people should be told to settle down and wait for the budget and the issues will be addressed.
Honorable Chinobere, then Honorable Kajinda, then Musana, then Kasozi. Honourable members, those who spoke on other issues yesterday, give others a chance. Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. My name is Chinobere Herbert, representing Chibuku constituency. Right Honourable Prime Minister, mine is a request that in most cases we would want to access the Minister of Education. This is a very big ministry, and as far as education is concerned, sometimes we feel we should access, just like we access any other ministry, but the access is not there. And when you try to go through formal communication, like you say, I write a letter, you can't get the feedback. And sometimes you have an issue, maybe pertaining education. So it's my request that as the Prime Minister and Head of Government Business, you try to link us, or you find a way. Just like we do other offices, you go and write a letter, or you go to a waiting room, sit down, maybe you can have an opportunity to be seen. Otherwise, we have issues that we feel we should pass on the minister, but accessing it is impossible. Thank you very much. Right Honourable
Prime Minister.
Speaker.
Right Honourable Speaker was not aware that some ministries are not accessible because ministries are public institutions to serve the wananchi, and therefore they should be accessible to the people. Fortunately, one of the ministers of education is here. I think it might be appropriate that after this session you have a close interaction with him. If there are any roadblocks, they will be cleared.
No, Kajinda, then Musana, then Kasozi.
Thank you,
I'm
Right
looking
Honourable
for those
Speaker.
who have not been speaking.
Right Honourable Prime Minister, I want
No,
to know
yes.
whether the government has
spoke yesterday and
plans
today.
of restoring the demolished palace and other royal infrastructure and possessions in Kasese.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, the immediate concern of government are the Ugandans have lost their lives and their families, and also investigating to find out the issues surrounding this incident. And when the investigations are out, they will give government a way of bringing a final and lasting end to this type of situation.
No, Musana. No, Musana.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I'm Musana Eric, Member of Parliament, Bujaga East constituency. Honourable Prime Minister, my question goes, in 2013, government recruited the parish internal security officers called the PISOs to enable GISOs and boost the intelligence at all levels. And later last year, it prompted even to move to go to VISOs. Even the VISOs, PISOs, and GISOs. Now, from 2013 up to date,
Order members.
From 2013 up to date, these VISOs, PISOs have not received any payment. Could it be the reason as to why we are seeing lapses in security intelligence, especially the killings we are hearing? One has been shot here and the other one has been shot the other side. Could it be the reason that PISOs, VISOs, and GISOs are not well facilitated or paid, and we are having all these lapses in security? And which plans are you having to make sure that PISOs and VISOs are paid?
Prime Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, government recruits and pays people. If some people are recruited and not paid, then there must be something wrong, and therefore, with this information that I've received from my colleague, we'll follow it up and find out and take the necessary corrective measures.
Honorable Kasozi, then Noelin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Prime Minister, the government, under Health Sector Strategic Plan 1, designed provision of health service delivery right from the parish level, where they set up Health Center 2, then sub-county level, Health Center 3, up onwards. Mr. Prime Minister, there are reports in the Ministry of Health that in order for government to bail out the ailing health sector, government is planning to close Health Center 2s so that the little money saved can be used to recapitalize or revamp service delivery in Health Center 3. Mr. Prime Minister, what is your comment on that strange policy that is in the offing, if at all it is there?
Prime Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, it's true it is government policy to have health center 3s at Gombora level, and it's also true to say government stopped opening new health center 2s, but government did say that those that were functional could continue serving the Wananchi, but the policy is not open more health center 2s. And definitely the policy is also not only to equip and re-equip health centers, but also district hospitals, referral hospitals, and Mulago Hospital as well.
Noelin, then Okoto Otieno, then I go to Kahunde, then we go to...
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My name's Kisembo Noelin, Woman MP, Kibale District. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister is in respect of compensation for the people affected by construction of the Mubende Kakumiro Kagadi Road. Apparently, the communities or the persons affected, they have no answer. They say they have been made to sign acknowledging receipt of their compensation in respect of these works, and the clearance of the road has started. I have visited the contractors' CCC site, and they tell us they are not responsible. They are not responsible for compensation. So it is UNRWA. Now I need an answer to the people of Kibale. When are they going to be paid? Because they have already signed acknowledging that they have received the money.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, my sister has raised a legitimate point on behalf of the Wananchi, and as you saw me conferring with my colleague Honorable Tom Butime, the assessment has already been made and payment is due to be made, and we will find out when this payment will be made. And indeed, we will insist on expediting the payments. It is true there have been rather grotesque stories concerning payment of the Wananchi over compensation for land, but government again is going to work to ensure that these delays, these lacuna are closed, and so assure the Wananchi that they will be paid soon.
Honorable Okot Otieno, then Wataringaya.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Through you, Madam Speaker, may I know from the Right Honorable Prime Minister the relevance of the portfolio of economic monitoring in government when there are a number of government programs like Operation Wealth Creation, the construction of industrial parks, and so many others that are not meeting the expectations of Ugandans. And yet we know very well that that sector, that portfolio is not vacant. May I know the relevance through you? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, you may need to guide on whether the utterances of Ndugusech Kubo and Ndugutin Kasimira are consistent with the normal conduct of this House, because I expect them to be patiently listening to responses and questions when they are put. And after, we will soon be getting guidance from the Right Honorable Speaker on the matter, but...
Point of order.
Right Honorable Speaker, I was attentively listening to the Right Honorable Prime Minister as questions were being raised. And instead of answering the questions put to him, he chose to take over the House and took over your role as the Speaker of this House. Right Honorable Speaker, is the Right Honorable Prime Minister in order, therefore, to attempt to take over your role as the Speaker of this House, and he starts to give orders himself? Is in order, Right Honorable Speaker?
No, honourable members, I don't think he was giving orders. He was only raising concern about some noise from that general area.
I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for clearly your very wise ruling over this very important matter. Now, this question of economic monitoring that has just been raised by our colleague, is the position relevant? Is it doing its work? I must say that the position of economic monitoring, Minister, is one of the very important positions. Because we have worked together with both the current and the previous Minister for Economic Monitoring, and they have tackled very critical areas that have helped government to deal with some issues. Agreed, there are still some gaps, but the ministry portfolio of economic monitoring is very useful, and in fact what it needs is more technical reinforcement, and I believe it will be even more effective and will help the economy and the country to move forward.
Nova Taringaya, then Kahunde Kaberuha, and then to Murami.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask the Honorable Prime Minister Kesande Grace Wataringaya. I represent Rubiris District. 2 months back, my question is about wild animals. 2 months back, a herd of elephants attacked the people of Chabakara, and their sources of livelihoods were destroyed. Whereas I recognize the fact that tourism is a key opportunity for realizing Vision 2040. As a country, we have a big challenge to promote tourism and at the same time ensure that agriculture, which is the major opportunity for realizing Vision 2040, is not affected. So looking at sustainable development goal number 1, to end poverty, then sustainable development goal number 2, to end hunger. My question is, how can we achieve them when wild animals keep destroying people's livelihoods? Then second, how can my people of Rubirizi practice commercial agriculture as it has always been emphasized by His Excellency, the President of Uganda, and realize a middle status income by 2020 while wild animals keep destroying people's sources of livelihood? So I would like the Honorable Prime Minister
that's enough.
to let me know the government strategy on addressing this challenge. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, it is true that ideally the people and animals in the parks should have peaceful coexistence. But it's true that animals have occasionally attacked people, and the people have also gone in the park. So it seems there has been some tit for a tat type of situation. But on a serious note, measures have been taken. 1, to plant, say, tea along a number of national parks in order to block animals from leaving the park, which apparently works. Number 2, fencing of the parks is also a program that has been considered so that the population and animals can avoid clashing with each other.
Honorable Kaberuka, then Kahunde, then Tumuramye. Then I go to this side. Okay.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, aware that the Prime Minister stood here and promised that issues in connecting wananchi on power will be harmonized, and aware that Uganda is undertaking law electrification seriously, and service providers including FADSALT, Umeme are providing services, and aware that FADSALT is connecting people at 680,000 when the government has provided the service pole. When Umeme is just connecting at 80,000 shillings serving the same people. And aware that you promised that those connection fees will be harmonized. I would like to know you through Madam Speaker, when you are bringing that harmony, that harmonized fees, charges, connection charges to the people of Uganda. Thank you.
No, Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, Ugandans should enjoy similar rates in terms of charges, and we would ask the Minister responsible for energy to deal with this matter and report to this August House.
No Kahunde.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, with the discoveries of oil and gas in Uganda, government embarked on training Ugandans in petroleum-related courses. The first batch was recruited in 2009 and completed in 2011 at Uganda Petroleum Institute, Kigumba. Madam Speaker and Right Honorable Prime Minister, up to now there seems to be no clear pronouncement on when the production in oil and gas is likely to begin. These beautiful alumni have sent me to ask you, when is the production in oil and gas likely to begin, and whether their continued stay at home will not affect their skills? I beg to move.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker. In fact, the training of Ugandans in oil and gas started much earlier than what my sister has said, but it's true that Kigumba, as a national institution, started recently, and it is making so far good progress. With regard to the details of the issues raised, I'll ask the Minister for Energy to give a more specific timetable and piece of information on that.
Honorable Tumuramye, then Olega, Oketayot, then Wakabi.
Right Honorable Speaker, my name is Janasio Tumuramye, Member of Parliament, Kashonji County. My question goes to Right Honorable Prime Minister. Is government policy to construct health center floors at constituency headquarters, or upgrade health center 3s to health center 4s? My question is, when is the government planning to construct health center 4s to new created constituencies, particularly Kashonji County, which has no health center 4? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker. It's true that government may construct entirely new health center 4s, or 3s for that matter, or may upgrade health center 3s to health center 4s, depending on location, population, and area needs. But the details can be obtained from the Ministry of Health for the particular areas that are of concern.
Now, Olega, Oketayot, Ndugwa, Wakabi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I'm Olega Ashraf, representing Ringa in Imbe District. Honorable Prime Minister, there is a serious land dispute between Yumbe and Arua. Failure by government to solve this problem may cause a serious insecurity in the near future. Madam Speaker, when we met the President on October 13th, this matter was brought to his attention. In his response, the President asked Honorable Prime Minister to peacefully resolve this matter. When will this matter be resolved? And how will the elections for this one be conducted in that area? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker. The Ministry of Lands will soon be sending surveyors to reopen the border areas, and we think that will sort out the problem.
Now, Oketayot, then Wakabi, then Ndugwa. I go this side. Okay, I'll come to you last.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, can the Prime Minister help me understand what the government says about health workers employed by government at government health facilities, but engage in running their private facilities, which in some cases are even located just some few meters away from the government health facilities? What does government say about that? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, ideally you either work for government or you work in private practice. We are however aware that there is a common practice where people work in both. The Minister of Health is supposed to be regulating this matter, and depending on the situation concerned, the Minister of Health will and can take the necessary measures to ensure that there is no conflict of interest.
Now, Wakabi, then we go to Ndugwa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm Pius Wakabi, representing the Bugaya constituency, Hoima district. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I hope you are aware, last week on Thursday, 1st December, some Congolese gunmen attacked fishermen on at Kijangi landing site, Buseruka sub-county, Bugaya County, Hoima district. And they took 18 boats, phones, and even undressed these fishermen. My question is, what steps has government taken to improve security along Lake Albert shores? Thank you very much.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, it is a commitment of government to ensure that every Ugandan is secure. And definitely the provocation or the cause of the problems for Ugandans, arresting, taking boats, phones, and other issues is a matter for concern. However, I'll check to find out how far the security forces have gone tackling with this matter. There are bilateral political meetings, security meetings between Uganda and DRC and even our other neighbors to ensure that such situations and skirmishes are avoided and when they have occurred are handled. But we'll get the details and would be happy to follow this matter with you so that you can in turn communicate the wananchi concerned.
Now Mudugwa, then Rubogo, then Lydia.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Awol Gonahasa and Oranyi.
Right Honorable Speaker, last week on Thursday, the Committee of Agriculture, this Parliament, was blocked from accessing the ferry to Uhuma for 40 minutes by the Wananchi. The reason was it is Parliament responsible for the small ferry. Right Honorable Speaker, the Prime Minister is aware that 6 years ago, government of Uganda promised a bigger ferry to Buvuma. And indeed, the people of Buvuma accepted to receive a refurbished ferry, old ferry from Kalangala, which has been at the dry dock in Luzira for the last 5 years. It has featured 4 times in the municipal statements under procurement. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, and the Honorable Prime Minister, I request for an honest answer. Right Honorable Prime Minister, when are the people of Buvuma having a bigger ferry? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, it's true that government is putting more resources in provision of ferries, in as much as we are putting more resources in construction of roads, so that the people can be able to move much more easily, much more securely. As to the specific timing and availability of money, we would need to check the details of the budget and plan of the Ministry of Works. Nevertheless, the concerns were taken, and my brother and I were with Wananchi in Buvuma only recently, and we witnessed the suffering of the Wananchi.
Honorable Bogo, then Lydia Chekwel. No, Rubogo first. Rubogo, Honorable go first.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, I would seek special permission from you that every Wednesday for a whole year from now, you grant me permission to be asking the Right Honorable Prime Minister the question I'm about to ask him. And the question is, Right Honorable Prime Minister, it is a constitutional responsibility of government to ensure that there is balanced development in the country and come up with deliberate action to bring up areas which are still lagging behind. You are also aware that the report from your office, which was actually brought here, indicated that poverty in Busoga was increasing, while generally in Uganda, poverty was going down. You are also aware that this parliament passed a resolution that the government was going to come up with a special program for the development of Busoga. And you are aware that several other places, in addition to the universal programs that we have, are having special development programs to ensure that they catch up with others. Now the question is it deliberate that government intends to keep Busoga poor? Is it deliberate that you want to keep us poor such that you can use us as tools for the longevity of this government? Is it deliberate, Mr. Prime Minister, that Busoga should be kept poor such that during the campaigns we can get droppings from the politicians? Can you tell us why government has failed to come up with this special program for Busoga, which is even about not to appear in the forthcoming program in the next budget?
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, it is the policy of government to ensure that every corner of Uganda, every part of Uganda develops and transforms. And Busoga definitely is part of Uganda, therefore we will enjoy that program. Number two, it's true that in the budget that will be coming in July, Busoga will be tackled as a special development area in order to ensure that this poverty can be dealt with and people's well-being improved.
Honorable Bakol, then Lydia Chekwel.
Thank you,
Then I come.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Here, then Chomuhendo.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, we are all aware that forest cover is going down day by day. I'm wondering if you are aware that charcoal is being used in steel industry. When you see a lot of lorries moving from northern part of Uganda to Jinja, because very recently I've been handling some women from Gulu and from Amuro whose money was with the steel industry, over 32 million, are not being paid by the industry. And that was how I got to know that a lot of charcoal goes to the steel industry. Are you aware, and if you are aware, that even then forest cover is going down day by day and desertification is a reality? What is government doing about that? What are you doing about charcoal going to steel industry? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, it's useful information from my sister to know that charcoal is playing a very active role in the steel industry in Jinja. With regard to deforestation, that's a very serious point, and the answer really is for all of us, government, individuals, organizations, religious groups, to embark on afforestation and tree planting. I believe that if each of us plays their role and we, the political and civic leaders, mobilize the population, we can cover Uganda again within a relatively short time. So afforestation and tree planting must be the way in order to overcome the problem of afforestation and therefore global warming.
Honorable Chekwel, but Prime Minister, can we know when you're going to establish the tree fund? Can we also know when the National Tree Planting Day is? Yes. Honorable Chekwel.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, in this country we have some districts that benefit from hard-to-reach allowance. My people, Right Honorable Speaker, have always been asking. The President has been in the district on several occasions and has promised to include Queen District under the districts that are to benefit from hard-to-reach allowance. Right Honorable Prime Minister, my question is, what is the criteria of selecting these districts, and what does the government consider as hard to reach? Because I know you have been in that district and many of us have been there. The Right Honorable Speaker was there the other day. My district is actually hard to reach and even hard to stay. When is government considering Queen District to benefit from this hard to reach allowance? And Right Honorable Speaker, when we raise these issues, we expect the government to respond and really put things right. The other time I raised the issue of resettlement of my people. Even after several attempts to come to your office, Right Honorable Speaker, there is nothing that has been done to my people. And you are there, Right Honorable Speaker. The people want resettlement, want to be resettled. Right Honorable Speaker, can I receive a response from you, and can my people also listen to what the government says?
Okay, thank you. Prime Minister, resettlement and hard to reach and hard to stay.
On resettlement, Right Honorable Speaker, we have had challenges in the Sebei region over resettlement. The government cut off a piece of land from the national park in order to resettle people. Instead of settling the people who really deserved settlement, more powerful people grabbed the land. And unfortunately, those who should have been resettled remained landless. Government is making now additional efforts to ensure that that problem is finally resolved. So that's first point. Now, the question of hard to reach areas, I would want the minister responsible for public service to come to this house after the holidays to clarify this position, because there are a number of additional controversies concerning the hard to reach and hard to stay areas of Uganda and how to deal with the staff. So we will be helped by the Minister of Public Service with a statement after the holidays.
Unagona hasa, then Olanya, then Mutonyi, then Chomuhendo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. During the presidential campaigns, the NRM candidate and the current president directed on the distribution of 18 million handholds to homesteads across the country. In the subsequent 28 guidelines to cabinet and the civil service under Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo, the same president doesn't mention the handholds anymore, but talks about mechanized agriculture. A recent request by the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Honorable Vincent Sempija, he made a request for 45 billion shillings to help farmers dig holes to grow coffee. That request is very frightening for some of us in a country where we think we have to be a bit more frugal and build the capacity of our people, our farmers, to take responsibility for their farming activities. What is the preferred delivery mechanism for helping the population that is subsistence in agriculture or is in subsistence agriculture to improve productivity? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, the promise made by the President during the campaigns for the horse, for the Wananchi, still remains and is being phased again over this period so that that promise can be properly fulfilled. Secondly, the issues of 45 billion for coffee, for halls and other things. Really, the guidelines follow Operation Wealth Creation, help the wananchi, guide them. Now they are going to get more extension support, and we believe that the program of Operation Wealth Creation, the inputs being made, and the political guidance by the elected representatives of the people at different levels will make a big difference and will enable the wananchi to earn more money and transform their lives.
Nabolanya, then Mutonyi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, formerly abducted persons by the Lord Resistance Army, especially from Achole, Lango, and part of West Nile, sometimes back petitioned Parliament. And Parliament came up with various resolutions. Right Honorable Prime Minister, up to now, government has not started implementing those resolutions. The children born in captivities, many of them, they are just home, not going to school. The women formerly abducted, they are just suffering. If you go to places like my district, Amoro, another part of northern Uganda. My question is, Right Honorable Prime Minister, I would like to find out when is the government going to start implementing the resolutions passed by Parliament to help formerly abducted persons?
Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, government has been having vigorous programs for formerly abducted children, who many of them are now big women and big men. First, many of them were liberated and recruited in UPDF. They are now playing a very, very important patriotic role in defense of their country. Number two, many of them were brought, put in schools. Some of them have completed universities and technical institutions. They are now part of the society. Point number three, those who required treatment, including plastic surgery, quite a number of them have benefited. Point number four, government realized that this was a matter that required participation of the community, of the traditional leaders, of religious groups, and the cooperation has produced great results. But ultimately, the key point is to integrate them in society so that they can be part and a parcel of the society instead of being looked at as a special, isolated group. We should forget that era in as far as discrimination of the people and stigma is concerned. We integrate them in society as soon as possible, and you, the political leaders, especially from the area, have a special responsibility in that respect.
No, Mutonyi. Mutonyi then Chomuhendo.
I'm not so short. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm really perturbed on the issue of environmental protection. It looks like there is a selective kind of method of evacuating who is who. We have seen Munyonyo, where government had an interest. They even reclaimed land from the water. I've seen Entebbe Botanical Beach Hotel. They are built with an extension into the lake. Now, how can we convince wananchi? Those who buy land on the river banks and lake shores, they want to put up hotels. And hotels near the water fetch more. Because you don't buy land on the river bank just to do cultivation. Now, if some people are allowed and others have had big markstones 100 meters away for as a buffer, river reserve, how do we convince these people really? When the government wants a road, like look at the northern bypass, it had access to the swamp. So how are we going to convince people who have land along the river banks and along the lake shores, and they want to put up such enterprises for even money generating for taxation into the government? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, our sister has a valid point that we should be consistent with implementation of environmental laws and that we should not be discriminatory. Of course, one of the problems is that some of these laws came into effect when some of those institutions and structures were already in place. Secondly, there is what environmentalists call vanquished wetlands, where there has been so much transformation of wetland that it has literally been transformed and used for other purposes. But your point is very well taken of consistency in implementation, government leading by example and ensuring that from now onwards we don't allow violation of the law, we enforce the law. So the point is very well taken.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm called Babas Jennifer Chomhendo, Woman MP Kagat District. Right Honorable Prime Minister, of recent, government commissioned new administrative units in form of districts like Kagadi, Kakumiro, Omolo, and Rwanda, of which we are very grateful, and that's why some of us were here. However, I have observed that these districts need some affirmative action from the government by the way of facilitation to acquire road construction equipment and upgrade the health facilities as well as building the administrative units. Right Honorable Prime Minister, what plans does government have to facilitate these districts and to acquire these facilities? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, the new districts will be sharing some of the facilities like road construction equipment with their mother districts. However, as you very well know, government is importing new road equipment from Japan, and this will take care of the concern and concerns of the new districts. But there is a transition process before the new districts will acquire all the facilities for themselves, but let them use the facilities, share some of the, even personnel sometimes, of the mother districts until their requirements are properly met.
Now, honour members, we have used 1.5 hours, mainly because last week the Prime Minister was not here. But I do think that we need to allow him to go and do other work. So now members, I want to thank you for the sitting. I want to remind members to attend the workshop by the Gender Ministry on the Songhai model at Imperial Royal Hotel tomorrow, starting at 8. Otherwise, the house adjourned to 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.